Hello. As you can see, I finished my book, The Gladio Code, in French and in English. It's a big and beautiful book of about 800 pages in American white format. It's also 240,000 words. The Da Vinci Code, which was already a big book, had 140,000 words. Mine is therefore 100,000 words more. You can currently find the Gladio Code on Amazon in both format, paperback and ebook, Kindle, at €10. The Gladio Code is my story with Gladio, but it's mostly theirs. Who is really Gladio? That's what I will try to describe here. The summary of my book is about God. Please don't block on this. This summary, this book and this story are for everybody, regardless of their religion or beliefs. Only, as in the Da Vinci Code, the Christian religion is one of the most important characters in the story, in the book, but also in our story. You will understand why. 2000 years ago, God sent us his prophets and their disciples. Jesus was one of these prophets, like Mohammed, John the Baptist, and many others. They had a mission to give us a religion, a faith, and values. However, men did not follow this religion. Some of them wanted to establish a religious power, including the right to life or death on Christians, and kill those who were not or not enough Christian. The Christian church was created on this principle, and it was not the desire of God. In the 12th century, Knight Templars formed the army of God. They protect Christians going to Jerusalem. There, they discovered in Jerusalem that Mary Magdalene was in fact the wife of Jesus, and that she had 2 children from him. The church then considered Mary Magdalene as a prostitute with no formal connection to Jesus. For the church, Jesus was the Son of God. He was divine and could not have a wife or a child. It was wrong, and it was an important lie of the church. The Templars returned to France urgently to seek out these descendants of Jesus and protect them. But at that time, this kind of goal could be called heretic and lead to death. The Templars had imagined different ways to hide their purpose and their secrets. It was at this time that born this legend of the Holy Grail, sought by the Knights Templars and all other powers and knights of the time. The Holy Grail was, according to legend, a cup that Jesus would have used during his last meal with his disciple. The same cup would then have been used the next day to harvest the blood of Christ during his crucifixion. According to the same legend, this cup would give its owner immense powers. So many people were looking for this cup to have these powers. But all this was wrong. There had never been a cup, and this fact was described in the very famous painting by Leonardo da Vinci. This last one described the last meal of Christ, and during this one there was no single cup, no container to drink. The Bible either did not describe any cup during this meal. In short, when the Knight Templars searched for what could contain the blood of Christ, they were in fact looking for the descendants of Christ. This one also bore the blood of the Christ. The Holy Grail was therefore a wise choice. On the other hand, the painting of Leonardo da Vinci showed the presence of, at this meal, of Mary Magdalene at the right of the Christ, which the Bible obviously did not mention. The Templars thus venerate Mary Magdalene, but could never pronounce her name. The Templars built and financed at that time many churches and cathedrals, including Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. They tried as many times as possible to leave there an invisible trace of Mary Magdalene. Thus, in the church, Black Virgin appeared, carrying a child with a sphere in his hands. It was the same principle as for the Holy Grail, something that could represent the Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus, but who actually represented Mary Magdalene. The Cathedral Notre Dame of Paris also had its Black Virgin, but it had been colored in the Middle Age and repainted in white after. She is still there today, and it's Mary Magdalene. On October 13, 1307, a large part of the Knights Templar had been killed by the Church for heresy. Their secret, however, remained and had been transmitted to Freemasons 300 years later. However, the Knights Templar did not say their last words. They expected to return to reveal the truth. Again, 300 years later, just after the Second World War, Western countries needed to create a secret army. The objective was to defend against the Russians, communism, and to prevent a Third World War. This secret military organization was born in NATO in 1947 and took the name of Gladio, sword in Italian. They had the sword as their symbol. In reality, as for the Holy Grail and the Black Virgin, this Gladio hid something much more important: the return of the Knights Templar, the army of God. This time, they had the intention to reveal the truth, even if their plan would take 80 years. They had first to take a form that their enemies would appreciate, an organization for the latter to orchestrate false flag operations to manipulate their population. False flag operations involve attacking their population while making the population believe an enemy or a cause which in reality does not exist. It's obviously a crime in addition to being manipulation. Manipulation is what the Church has been doing since its origin, to enslave the population. The Templars, aka Gladio, were going to help the government in the form of a division of NATO. It was also a great way for the Knights Templar to later show populations how their government had betrayed them. While Gladio is organizing these false flag operations for the government, Gladio had to prepare the next step, the denunciation. For that, they needed two men of the same origin and knowing each other very well. One would pretend to be Gladio's leader, the other would denounce him, with the information received from the first, but without to know that he was denouncing Gladio's activities. These men were chosen at birth, even perhaps before. This future whistleblower was going to reveal the truth, was me. The second was the second character in my book, the High Officer, Chief of Gladio. From my childhood, I was going to learn who was God and to be computer-oriented. It is indeed coding and decoding. It was the training I needed to understand what Gladio hinted to transmit me. I had to have a logical mind. IT was my direction. But in my childhood, I also had problems related to my brain, which doctors did not understand the intense activity. It was going to exempt me from military service, but also to create problems of significant stress, of unexplained origin, and regular fainting. As for the High Officer, he wanted from his childhood to become a Zorro of modern times. Already a teenager, he did not like authority of any kind. From a small bandit as a teenager, he was going to make his career in the army and the police. In 1990, Gladio had already carried out a number of terrorist operations on behalf of government in Europe. Everyone had learned about Gladio, and Europe decided to dissolve Gladio on November 22, 1990. That was Gladio's goal. They could thus continue to work for the states to the false flags operations, while no longer exist, or at least officially. It was also in 1991 that I denounced the first crime famous in Belgium, the case Stéphane Stenier, which I had known by the authors themselves. However, my interlocutor was the high officer, who obviously had not done anything about my denunciation. I had just passed my whistleblower exam for Gladio. From the 2000s, Gladio had devised a plan to bind me to all their false flags operations. They were going to take the big moments of my life for calendar and therefore plan operations according to my existence. I would realize that much later, but it would mean that all these operations had the same origin. The first of these operations was September 11, 2001. My ex-wife and I had twins in Morocco on August 2, 2001, and we returned to Belgium on August 11, 2001. This resulted in this terror attack against the Twin Towers a month later in Manhattan. It was in 2008 that this story really began. I did not know yet about Gladio's existence or Gladio's relationship with the high officer. However, at that time, the high officer forced me to work for organized crime, so Gladio, and transmit to me his terrorist ideas. I did not understand that these terrorist ideas were fake and intent to manipulate me. I denounced all this from mid-April 2009. The high officer really wanted me to take him for a terrorist, and it was very successful. It was the classic method of the Templars. The Holy Grail and the Black Virgin were not what they were supposed to be, but I did what was expected of me. From 2010 and 2014, I had been exfiltrated, protected and trained by Gladio, whose existence I did not know yet. However, I continued to denounce everything I learned. I did not know that this was my mission, especially as the more I denounced, the less the Belgian and foreign authorities reacted, despite evidence that Gladio itself provided me. Two things prevented them from answering my denunciation. First, for these authorities it was Gladio, so NATO, and no one can attack NATO. The second is that if it was Gladio, it meant that the clients for these operations were the states themselves. Gladio did not work for itself. As in 2001, the attack of Paris in 2015 and of Brussels in 2016 corresponded to me at important move and email received from the high officer. I was sure of being linked to these attacks, in addition to the fact that they look like conspiracy. However, I did not see yet the link between my existence, emails, and attacks. But having an important terrorist file in my hands and start in 2008, I decided to denounce everything to the press. It was on this occasion that I chose myself a pen name, Marc Delande. I really thought I had imagined that name alone. I should have realized what it means. The land. In French, it means from the devil's house. In short, from Gladio. I did not look for that, neither before nor after. I immediately adopt this name without asking myself any question, such like where this name came from. I report my mother in August 2016 that I had started formally denouncing these terrorist operations and my story from the beginning. Gladio then interrupted immediately all their operations, and 7 months later, Gladio was killing my mother. 2 months after her death, they resumed their activities. So for 9 months, Gladio had orchestrated any operation to not give me the opportunity to talk to my mother again about all this. It could have permanently blocked Gladio's plan. You will understand why by reading my book. In short, my mother was a very important person in this story. Under the influence of Gladio, she paid me during 15 years, and so she allowed that this story was possible. Since my mother was out of the equation, Gladio could get back to their false flags operations. They had then created on my internet server a signal, the Gladio signal. With this one, Gladio could sign whole terrorist operations in real time, minute by minute. This was going to be the case for all the terrorist operations of that time in Europe, the USA, and Russia. I even had the opportunity to warn of 10 of them. Nevertheless, never a single authority asked me the origin of my information. The first of these operations signed on my server was the terror attack in Manchester on May 22, 2017. I was not yet aware of the existence of Gladio, but I was convinced that it was related to the high officer. I had therefore warned, in writing and by telephone, the Belgian authorities that an attack was going to take place in the next hours. They did not do anything about this information, and some hours after the attack occurred. I denounced each of these operations and signature on my server. In vain. I could link all these operations together by command points, sometimes even stupid. But the authorities did not want to make these links. These attacks did not stop, and the authorities hid these links, whereas Gladio wanted to make them appear. I understood that I was the messenger of an apparently terrorist group, whose name I did not know yet, but I knew the leader. This one did not miss an opportunity to make me think of him and to connect these events to him. I could not count the number of operations and deaths. I did not understand that I was being manipulated like the terrorist on the field, one the authorities often call unbalanced. It is on October 16, 2017 that Gladio let me know its name, while murdering the same day a famous journalist in Malta, Daphne Caruana Galizia. I had a name, Gladio, a history on Wikipedia, and testimonials about these organizations. I thought I understood, but I did not understand anything. Gladio was doing the same as with the Holy Grail. They hid the truth. I could therefore denounce more, since I had become the messenger of Gladio, the apparent branch of NATO. Their operations did not stop, and then include the main mass killing in the US, infanticide, and other massive crimes, as well as many other things. In September 2018, Gladio made me understand the most important of this story. All these terrorist mass murderers and family killers were in fact all under mind control. Gladio manipulated them like puppets. They could turn anyone into a killer in a split of a second. They had demonstrated it to me several times. They could ask a man who had never flown a plane to start one at Seattle, take it off, and do acrobatics like a professional, to end up committing suicide with the plane. They give me multiple demonstrations like this, all signed on my server. I understood that Gladio was also behind writing my own reports. They saw and heard what I saw and heard. They could hurt any part of my body in a fraction of a second. They gave me vision and voice to help me understand. They added this to Gladio's signal and watched if I finally understood. I was absolutely convinced of this, and it's still true today. They had done everything to make me believe in the implants. I thought I was super implant, but I was wrong. They especially wanted me to think so. I was sometimes in the middle of nowhere in the Philippines, far from any connections, and I was always connected to them. They moved their Gladio signal according to what I was doing and my movement. I did not understand that these implants did not exist. That man could not do that. The targeted individuals, those people attacked remotely by mind control, are thousands. They exchange information about American implants, technologies or projects, which they believe were responsible for this mind control. I thought so too, but it was all false. It was typically Gladio's ways of inventing another truth, so the people would not look any further. They started that with the Holy Grail and the Black Virgins, and it was still true today. At the same time, I discovered then the climatic manipulations with HARP technology. Gladio had just given birth to a hurricane that would end his run in Florida. On the website headquarters posting all my articles. HARP was described on the web but not as a weapon. In fact, this information on the internet did not explain anything. People read HARP is for climate change. At their image and their imagination did the rest. Gladio had to give a name to this weapon, so that people do not look any further. Gladio wanted me to believe it, and I had believed it for almost a year. But I was wrong, because I did not know at that date who was really Gladio. Very soon after that, I understood that Gladio's main weapon for destruction was the DOE, the direct energy weapons. It could burn, melt, seed, volatilize anything. Photos and videos of these destructive beams and its effect were numerous and serious. However, we never saw the origin of the beam, the weapon. Again, the web gave pictures of the pseudo-weapons, DOE, and pseudo-explanations of how they work. All this was false, especially with an airplane. As for the implants, the man did not have this weapon yet. He works on it as an anti-missile weapon, but from the ground and on a clear day. The imagination of the man does the rest. Always the Gladio method, to make believe in something that does not exist, but whose effect we see, without being able to provide other explanations than the ones of our imagination. It was from April 15, 2019, and the fire of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, exactly 10 years after my first complaint against Gladio, that I was going to understand everything. It was first the anagram linking my name, Marc Delandre, to the one of the cathedral. This anagram at resultant in ancient Greek, theoda, against God, the church that lies, and with God, the one who wants to restore the truth. This anagram could only have been imagined long ago, while ancient Greek was still used in the design of codes. Any other author's name would not have given this result. The fight was caused by two direct energy weapons. Their white beam was clearly visible on the videos and photos above the cathedral. My video on the cathedral and on the anagram had then reached 1 million of views in total. Gladio officially showed to the world the choice of my name, but also my relationship with them and with the series of the Da Vinci Code. This series of the Da Vinci Code in particular described very well the lie of the Church on the descendants of Christ. My story had also had a lot in common with this series. The Da Vinci Code was a fiction, raising questions about the Christian's religion. The Gladio Code is a true story that provides answers. Gladio also put enormous means to bind me to the Da Vinci Code. Jean-Pierre Mariel, the French actor, was in the first scene of the Da Vinci Code and the author of the anagrams in the movie. In the film, he was murdered by the Opus Dei, but before dying, he drew, with his blood, anagram for his granddaughter, Audrey Tautou, and Tom Hanks. The most extraordinary was about Jean-Pierre Mariel. He also died in real life 2 hours before I received my own anagram, connecting me to the fire of Notre Dame Cathedral. His death was supersigned on the Gladio signal. It could not be a coincidence, but how did they do it? Jean-Pierre Mariel had not been murdered, but he had died on the initiative of Gladio to bind me definitively to the Da Vinci Code. Who could decide to recall a soul or to stop a heart from beating at a given time? It was a few days later that I was really learning who Gladio was. It was the Templars who had just burned a cathedral, their cathedral, for the lies of the church. I had to be the one to inform the world, but that was not all. Shortly after, it was the turn of the volcanoes to wake up one after the other, earthquakes, enormous climatic problems, and so on. Gladio signed all this on my web server, but the most extraordinary was that for a number of them, videos showed UFOs over the targets, including for the fire of Notre Dame. Gladio, the army of God, was not terrestrial. They were above our heads and in our heads. In fact, I just understood that I did not have implants. No one had an implant, at least not those responsible for mind control or our bodies. The control interface was our pineal gland, often called the third eye. The pineal gland has been known for millennia, long before the arrival of the Christ, especially among the Egyptians. But who has access to this pineal gland, which can allow him to recall a soul when he wants? Who can see everything and hear everything? God, and God is them. And Gladio is his army, that of Templars. They are above us, among us, and in us. I learned then that I was the one who had to describe all this situation and the lies of states and church. I had to reveal the truth before Gladio executes the orders received from God to reduce the population of the earth by 50%, with the means they always demonstrate today. Indeed, they believe that the earth can no longer support our population explosion, as well as our lies. They want to make a reset to our Earth and our civilization to bring it back to its original values. This is the revelation followed by the apocalypse, or the wrath of God, described in the Holy Scriptures, and my mission is to inform you. All theories and rumors about a new world order by the Illuminati, families and so on are false. Gladio will not make any difference between the poor and the rich, the Illuminati and the others. Its goal is to reduce the population by 50% under 5 years, and no one will have any special right. All these rumors have been created to occupy our minds and especially to prevent us from seeking another cause. A famous speaker, Robert Bobdin, kept saying that in some movies there was a message to our attention. However, he was talking mostly about UFO-related movie, his specialty as a former army. He was right, but he was wrong too. This was not just about UFO stories, but many other things. The 5 volumes of the Da Vinci Code series are exactly the themes of my book, the Gladio Code. But that's also true for the Independence Day and the 2012 disaster movie by the same director. The Independence Day is our situation today, and 2012 is about what is expected to happen following this situation and planned disasters. The Da Vinci Code series is part of the explanation for this situation. I frankly think that Gladio has been behind these authors and directors as they are behind me, precisely to get them to describe through fictions a situation that will happen, and we are there. They will reduce our population by 50%. This is the subject of the 800 pages of my book, The Gladio Code. My story since birth, as well as theirs. This book describes my long apprenticeship and all the adventures they have made me live. The goal was that I end up being the one who must announce this truth and advise you to pray, because the rest will be very painful. God bless you.